Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. My name is Shruti, and today's Awakening talk along with Rohit. Thank you so much for joining us. The purpose for these talks is to share stories that help plant seeds for a more compassionate society while fostering our own inner transformation. And I can vouch for it. We do this by holding collective conversations with guest speakers from all walks of life who inspire us to live in a more service oriented way. And behind each of these calls is an entire team of service based volunteers whose invisible work allows us to hold this space. Today, our special guest speaker is Rajeev Peshawaria. In the first part of the call, Rohit will engage in a moderated Q&A with Rajeev. And in the second part, we will be taking some questions. So at any point during the talk, we welcome you to help us build the conversation and go deeper by offering a question or a reflection. You can do so via the comment box in the live stream page. Thank you for joining us, and let us start with a minute of silence to anchor ourselves in the present moment.
Welcome back. Thank you, Shruti. And I am really delighted and honored to be part of this conversation today and to welcome Rajeev to Awaken Talks. As most of you might have already read, Rajeev is the CEO of Stewardship Asia Center in Singapore and also founder of Leadership Energy Consulting Company in Seattle, Washington. And he is really, I think, a globally renowned thought leader in like how our leadership needs to continue to evolve according to the changing needs of the world today, and also how it can be a deepest expression of our deepest self. And he has written so many books and also articles which can keep you gripped all night if you once you get into it, which happened to me last night. And books like Open Source Leadership, Too Many Bosses, Too Few Leaders have been like bestsellers and really, I think, very well appreciated and received, and have, I think, expanded the horizons of what we see as leadership in the world of business, specifically in so many ways. He's also co-author of Be the Change and a regular writer for Forbes. And he has extensive global experience in leadership and organizational consulting with a particular focus on uncovering personal and organizational leadership energy. Prior to starting LEC, he was CEO of iCliff Leadership and Governance Center based in Malaysia. And even before that, he has held many important positions in the industry, like he was the chief learning officer of both Coca-Cola and Morgan Stanley. And previously, he started his career as a banker and currency trader and was involved with firms like American Express, HSBC, and Goldman Sachs. So, in last 30 years, Rajeev, you have been doing this work of leadership development, and also I think a lot of it has also, I think, gone around with your own changes, on how you yourself see your life and you yourself see yourself as a human being. So so this was like some bits of your formal intro which I just was reading, but I think to give a deeper glimpse into who Rajeev is as a person, I think to give a deeper sense of the identity, and also I think some dissolution of identity, I would say in some case, is I would just invite if you would like to play a small clip, which some of you might have already seen, but I think all of us who just saw it who felt so moved by all the stories and how gently and caringly you're holding all the stories and all how it is changing. So I would invite the tech to play that clip. It's a 5-minute clip, and then we'll get it started with the conversation.
The biggest pivotal point was when I looked at a lot of young people coming into the workforce, not just in India, but all over the world, wherever I worked in the corporate world, all starry-eyed and all ambitious, wanting to do great stuff, wanting to change the world, only to get very disappointed because they got stuck under bosses or leaders who were just not nurturing enough to bring out the best in them. And I just felt that there has to be a better way. There has to be a better way. So that was probably one of the early ones. But this one goes back a long time ago. I was unfortunate to have lost both my parents in an accident back in the 90s. And what struck me when I was at their funeral was the number of people that showed up at the funeral, pretty much the whole town, and made me realize, what life is all about, because everybody wanted to just say thank you for what my father and my mother stood for. And I asked a lot of people, I haven't seen you for a long time, why did you come? We wanted to say thank you for all that they've done in this world. And that sort of changed my entire perspective to life. And I said, life is about giving and not about taking. So yeah, that left a huge impact for me. Besides my own father, the two people that I talk about all the time are Gandhi and Nelson Mandela. And Mandela, as we all know, was also a follower of Gandhi. How can somebody be in prison for 27 years and still not give up on what they want to give to the world? So these two leaders in particular have had a profound impact on me, continue to be my spiritual gurus, if you will. And there are so many more unsung heroes, but I'll leave it at that for now. There was a leader that I worked for. Well, I hadn't worked for him at that time. And he, I was a very successful, as I told you, just like you, Rohit, I was a very successful trader in an investment bank. And I thought I had the best job in the world, and I had the world at my fingertips. And in those days, it was actually quite trendy to be a trader, and was seen as a very, very coveted job. And this person walks up to me and says, "You're missing your calling in life." And I said, "What? I have the best job in the world. What do you mean I'm missing my calling in life? Well, what can be better than this?" He said, No. You have a gift. You have a gift of making complex things simple, and you have a gift of communicating to people in a very authentic way. You should get into the communication field." And he says, "I am the head of HR of this company, and I'm offering you a job in my department." And my initial reaction was, is he crazy? But then as he made me think this through, I realized, wow, what he's saying is making a lot of sense. I made the decision to switch my career. It was the loneliest decision of my life, but in hindsight, the biggest and the most powerful decision I ever made. So this goes back long before my time on the planet. When India and Pakistan divided, and a lot of people were crossing the border in then Punjab, which was divided right in the middle. A lot of people came in, reached their destination wounded, injured, and this, that, and the other. And I'm told that my grandfather, along with a few friends who owned cars at that time, took off the doors of their cars so they could push people into the seats quickly enough to take them to the hospital. So they were running to the train station with cars with no doors and pulling out people who needed help and needed to be hospitalized. And they got rid of the doors of their cars because they could put them in quickly and rush them in. It's a story I was told about him by my own parents, and I always visualized that. And I said, what must it have been like? And it was not just my grandfather; it was a bunch of people who got together and did that. So yeah, that's one that comes to mind immediately. I see a lot of. I look at life in this case from the corporate world's perspective, and there is a lot of emphasis these days on learning emotional intelligence. And hundreds of millions of dollars are spent around the world in teaching people how to be emotionally intelligent. And my hope for the world is that people learn emotional integrity before emotional intelligence. And emotional integrity is really looking into the mirror and being honest, at least with yourself, about what you really want for yourself in this life.
Wow. Thank you, Rajiv. It is really an honor, I think, to see how you have, continued the inspiration and the legacy which you have got from your father, and that beautiful story from your grandfather also, and just trying to do your bit in so many big and small ways in the world today in your own, with using your own particular strengths and gifts. Thank you. It is such a privilege, and we are so glad to have you here. So welcome.
Thank you.
So Rajiv, I want to start with that first thing which you said, that when you were seeing so many people in business and they were quickly getting disillusioned and just getting you know very used to working with this business as usual, quote unquote, as we call it, and you thought that there has to be a better way, right? And I was listening to some of the other talks which you have given, and few things which stood out from me, just I would like to present here, is that uh, one thing was on employee disengagement, right? Like I was just like really stunned that if you just sit with that statistic also, that 87% of the people are not actively engaged at work, which means only 13% people are actively engaged. This is globally engaged at work and are actually happy at work. So there's so much, I think, in terms of inner well-being and happiness which is being not explored, which is being left on the table. And also I think you've spoken and researched so much on also the external impacts of how, what are the unintended consequences and challenges which are coming up from due to just running this business as usual: climate change, inequality, and so many other things. I think the challenges keep getting more layered and more nuanced and complex. I'm curious, and what is the better way? And I think like a lot of work, your work has uh, galvanized into leadership energy. And so I think we'd love to hear a little bit of what that leadership energy is and how we can all try to be part of that better way.
Okay, well, I'll give it a shot, Rohit. So, after thinking about and researching a lot about why is it only 13%, and then why are so many people just generally unhappy in life, whether at work or otherwise, I looked at 4 words: leadership, happiness, success, and courage. And I found that all 4 were really lacking for most people. Success, of course, can be defined in the multiple ways, but whatever your definition may be, these four words were very, very misunderstood. So I made it a mission to understand these words a little bit. And I realized that, most people were defining them in a way that we've been stereotyped with, and not really the right way. I'll give you an example. For the last 20 years, when I have groups of people with me in sessions, live or online, I break them up into groups of 5, and I say, complete the sentence: leadership is the act of, and you've got 10 more words to finish, or less, to finish that sentence with. Leadership is the act of ... And for 20 years I've been collecting the data, and I can tell you that in 99% of the times the group comes back with the same definition that I hear over and over and over again. And regardless whether we ask in North America, Latin America, Africa, Asia, anywhere, the composite of all the groups looks something like this: leadership is the act of inspiring, guiding, directing, coaching, mentoring, thising or thating people towards achieving some common objectives. That is with few words here and there different. Every time you ask a group of people, 100 people, to finish the sentence, except for 1 or 2 people, most people give a answer something like this, right? So then I ask a follow-up question. So are you saying that leadership is what you do to other people? And of course they have to say yes, because that is what the definition is, right? And I say, therein lies the first fallacy of our misunderstanding of leadership. If you look at the 2 people I mentioned in your question earlier, Gandhi and Mandela, they did not do anything to anybody else. Whatever they did in their life, they did to themselves. And inspired followership happened as a result of that. As a prisoner for 27 years, Mandela could not have done anything to anybody anyway. Right? Whatever he did to himself. And even though he was invisible to the 44 million people of South Africa, he still remained a leader in their hearts and a loved one at that. How can you love somebody you don't even see or hear for 27 years? So leadership is deep inside. It is not what you do to other people. That was my first insight. Let me stop here for now.
Thank you. This is very, very powerful, I think. So and I think you used a sentence in when you write, you said leadership is not about what others do, it's about what you do, right? And that was just so fascinating to me, and what you're saying right now. And you do what you do, and like it is inspired followership, which then sort of creates the collective, creates the movement. So and you're saying that Gandhi and Mandela, whatever they did it to themselves, right? So I'm curious, what would you say that I and all the listeners in this call and people beyond, they should be doing to themselves? Because we all know that yes, we want to be happy at work. Like work is such a big part of our lives. At work and beyond, we just want to be happy. That's like so many, in so many ways, it's been said that is the ultimate objective. And I have never come across a person who has said that, yeah, I want to grow, but I want to grow in a way which is harmful for the society, or it doesn't benefit the society. So we all have that need inside us to contribute, to do work which contributes positively to the society. But somewhere I think both, it's not an easy. It sounds very simple when we say it, but to actually put it in action, it's not easy. It's not happening somehow to some extent. So what do we need to do with ourselves differently so that these objectives, we could move closer to these objectives?
Yeah. So, the other thing is that we all say what you just said. We all want to grow, and we want to do it by giving something positive to society. But there is a big gap between doing and saying. A lot of people say that, they mouth all the right words, but do they actually do it when push comes to shove is a totally different question altogether. So, to understand happiness, success, and courage, you have to understand leadership. So, as I told you, the first misconception is that it is what you do to other people, which is not true. You look at any great leader in history, you'll realize whatever they did to themselves first. Second question I always ask is, who is the leader of your country? And if I am in America, they will say Joe Biden. If I am in India, they will say Narendra Modi. I say, who is the leader of your company? And they name the CEO or the managing director or whoever. So I ask, okay, so are you saying that the biggest title holder, the one with the maximum authority, is a leader? Well, that's the second misconception. Leadership is not an adjective or a noun. It is a verb. It is what you do. And anybody can do leadership if they decide to. You don't need a title or a promotion. Again, the first and the second misconception are linked with one another, right? I have to have the authority and the power to lead others, right? The third one is interesting. We have been confusing followership with leadership and rewarding followership in the name of leadership for hundreds of years. Parents love their children when they listen to them and obey. But when the children are a little rebellious, parents are very quick to discipline them in every which way. And in Asia, we are quite used to this as well, right? So the child learns very early that, the best way for me to get rewarded is to do exactly what mommy and daddy say, and I will be rewarded. That trend continues through school and college. Who's the most favorite teacher, student of any teacher anywhere in the world, in any classroom? The most obedient student. Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, was thrown out of class many, many times because he was asking too many irritating questions. We want our children to grow up and become leaders and change the world and be innovators, but the moment they think outside the box, we are ready to bring them back into the box. That same trend continues in the corporate world. They tell us to innovate, come up with out-of-the-box thinking, but my behavior and my bonus is judged by how good a leader I am. And how is that measured? Through employee survey results. So I become a pleaser instead of a leader because my employee survey result determines my bonus. Even in the boardroom, when the CEO comes up with a brand new strategy challenging the status quo and presents it to the board and says, hey, board, approve this new plan for the company, the first question the board asks is, how many other companies have done it before? You may follow the best practice, but if you're the only one doing it, go show us more data. right? So these are the problems with the word leadership. We think title and authority is leadership. We think leadership is what we do to other people. We think following best practice, is leadership. Following is leadership. Go figure, right? So I think the first thing we need to do is to understand what it is. And what we say is that leadership doesn't begin when you get a promotion or when you get into a powerful position. Leadership begins when you close your eyes and imagine a better future that you want to create for the world. That's when the leader in you is born, not at the time of your biological birth. You can close your eyes at any point of time and ask questions like, what do I want this life to be worth? I'm not a genius. I'm not a superstar. I'm a very humble, ordinary person with very limited skills. But can I make my life, 100 years that I plan to live on this planet, useful to society in even the humblest and smallest of ways? The moment you close your eyes and imagine that better future, now the leader in you is born. So that's kind of the redefinition that we need to have. Now, one last point before I hand back to you, Rohit. Believe what I just said at your own risk. The moment you say, I want to create a better future, your life becomes miserable. I'll tell you why. Because the moment you want to change anything in this world, challenge anything in this world, you get nothing but resistance. Active resistance, passive resistance, all kinds of resistance. So your constant companion is difficulty, hardship, resistance. The moment you say, I want to create a better future, even if it is a small better future, right? So what is the main ingredient of leadership? That is where leadership energy comes in. It is the strength that Mandela had to not give up for 27 years. And that comes only from two sources. It comes from absolutely honestly admitting to yourself what your core values are, the values that you will never compromise no matter what happens, how hard it is for you and your loved ones. And then based on those values, give yourself a values-based purpose in life, a dream in life. If your purpose is bigger than yourself, and if it is based on your true values, you will never give up. If you don't give up, you will never fail. And that's what a true leader is all about. And by the way, in discovering those values and purpose, you also discover courage, happiness, and success. Sorry for the long-winded answer.
No, beautiful. I think this is, and I would love to go deeper here on discovering your values. And as I was reading, I was really struck by something you said, that you have to truly understand who you are and act in accordance with that. And then you add that only one thing will get you that level of clarity. Who are you? Why are you in this world? What are my values? I will even be willing to pursue if it brings loss to me or my loved ones. So first, let me just start with that, who are you? Why are you here in this world? These are not easy questions. I don't think if you go to a B school or any engineering school or even a startup boot camp, I think they teach you these things, or they even, I don't think anyone can teach, but they even invite you to, I think, reflect on these deeper questions. So how did these questions started to come alive for you? Was it very much part of your DNA from your childhood, or was it some future events which led to that? And what did you find when you asked yourself these questions? How was the process of discovering the answers?
So Rohit, I wish I'm tempted to give you a beautiful story and a great answer as to when the awakening happened and when the blah blah blah. But to be honest with you, I don't know when I woke up. I know I woke up at some point, but when, I cannot really pinpoint to. There are several things like my parents' funeral that we talked about briefly in the video, and I can tell you more about that. But it was a gradual process. Like everybody else, when I was young, I was studying in school and college. Only purpose was to get a good job, a well-paying job, and I got myself a well-paying job. Very soon, it was about relationships and finding a partner, then finding the perfect life partner to get married to, and then having children, and then having bigger house and bigger car and bigger this and bigger that, name, fame, glory. But somewhere down the line, those things became less important, and several of the instances we covered earlier were in there. But it's when I realized that life is more about giving than taking. It's when Nipun says this all the time, only when you experience giving do you understand even what it means to receive. It's one of Nipun's most beautiful lines that have stayed with me forever, ever since I heard about it in 2013, him speak about it for the first time. Somewhere down the line, that transformation happened. The reason why people struggle with themselves is because we focus too much on emotional intelligence and not emotional integrity. Emotional integrity is the courage to look in the mirror and at least admit to yourself what you really want out of life. People say, I want to serve the world, I want to serve humanity, I want to do this to that, and I can give you another example. I go around the world asking people, what is the most important thing in your life? What do you care about the most? Can you guess which is the most common answer, most popular answer to the question anywhere in the world? So you're in a group of people and say, tell me what is the most important thing in your life? What do you care about the most? What do you think, Rohit? What do you think is the most popular answer?
I read it, so and it's hard for me to think from the scratch, but
Yeah.
I can imagine me also saying something like that only, like family and my values
Yes.
are the most important. Yeah.
And they say, family, my family is the most important thing to me. I can do anything for my family. And it's not true for a lot of people. They are fooling themselves. People have a lot of aspirations for themselves about what they want, but it's a convenient and comfortable answer to give. My family, family guy, what a nice person. He thinks about his family. Women feel even bigger pressure to say family because, if they say my career or what I want to do, they are seen in very poor light, which is totally unfair because women have equal right to personal ambition as men do, right? So we are not honest with ourselves and we talk about emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is an on-the-surface skill. What is emotional intelligence? I understand my emotions and handle them intelligently. I understand your emotions and handle those intelligently. It's an on-the-surface skill that can be faked. First, we need to understand emotional integrity. What do I really want? If I don't want to serve the world, does that make me a bad person? If I want to be the most famous and the biggest tennis player in the world, and I only want to focus on that personal goal of mine, does it make me a bad person? No, it doesn't. As long as I do what I pursue my self-centered goals without harm to society, it's nothing wrong with that. But we don't admit that to ourselves, right? I mean, I'm inspired by a leader who, gave her all to her country and was very controversial in doing that. And she would say that, my family got as much of me as I thought was necessary. My priority was to serve the country. You can criticize me as much as you want for separating from my husband and maybe not being the best mother that I could have been, but that's okay. I knew how to balance that. So that's the first thing we need. We have to get totally honest with ourselves. Everybody says, my values are integrity, passion, hard work, giving, blah, blah, blah. But is it really true? And please don't fake it if it isn't. That's the first piece that I understood.
Beautiful. So Rajeev, now going back to the leadership thing, so there's need for a better way, right? And you see so many businesses every day in and out. You've been doing this for the last 20 or 30 years. As a sensitive citizen of the world, what is it that breaks your heart most when you see business today?
Yeah, so earlier I was looking at the way, self-unaware bosses were treating employees. And as I said earlier, they were crushing the hopes of young people even before they began. So that was the main thing that I was concerned about. But today, in addition to that, what we are looking at are probably two of the biggest challenges that humanity is facing if we do not address in the next 10 years or more, 15 maybe, there'll be no planet and humanity left. And those are climate change and income inequality. Big issues. And we need to, just like, when the COVID was on top of us, humanity, the best of humanity came together and we kind of developed solutions for it at record pace. Because the danger was on our heads. It was sitting on our shoulders. People were dying to the left and right of me. It wasn't in a faraway country or elsewhere. It was happening here. So the whole of humanity came together. We are not good as humanity at coming together when the danger is distant, when it's not right in my own house. And that is the problem with these two ills of climate change and income inequality. It's kind of far away. But these challenges are bigger than any individual, any one company, even any one country to resolve. Humanity has to come together. And that's one thing that we don't have a good track record of unless we are totally faced with disaster right in front of us.
Beautiful. Yeah. So, and like, what are like one or two examples which you could give, which as sort of data points, which can help us that how business can, more meaningfully engage with these questions?
We live in a world which is much more interconnected than ever before, and therefore interdependent. So, you know that I study steward leadership these days, and one of the core beliefs underlying steward leadership is interdependence. That nobody can succeed in isolation today. That my success depends on yours, and yours depends on mine. And if we embrace that idea, we can all do well together. So businesses, and the other point before I go any further is that we live in a naked world. Everything we say and do as individuals and as organizations is totally in full view of the world. So you can't hide anywhere today thanks to connectivity. Now, businesses that embrace the idea of interdependence, who take it upon themselves that, yes, we want to make money, but we want to do it by addressing these very challenges that humanity is facing, marrying purpose and profit are the ones that will succeed in the long run, for sure. That's what our research is telling us. Those who try to make money for the sake of making money alone at any cost, such bad actors will be brought to book sooner thanks to connectivity. Earlier, you could get away with a lot of nonsense. Today, with connectivity, I tell students around the world that, live your life as if you are being videotaped 24/7, 365, because guess what? You are. So, believe in interdependence, to CEOs and business leaders, I say, you think you are a super smart genius from the best schools and colleges, you feel that you are the leader, etc. If you feel that way about yourself, great. Then show me your genius in creating business models that make your shareholders happy by addressing the very challenges that humanity is facing. That is the challenge of 21st century leadership. So if you think you're that great a leader, show me that you can do that. And there is now gathering proof that businesses who get that right, the idea of interdependence and co-creating for society and thereby ensuring their own success, we find that they are doing well, and we find that there is actually no compromise between profit and purpose. Profit with purpose is the long-term game to play.
Beautiful. And one of the things Rajeev, I was struck by is that you're saying that leadership is about harnessing human energy, first your own and then others, and to envision a better future, right? To co-create a better future. But at the same time, somewhere I read that, however, you said you had this one very powerful statement, which said that, however, only the wisest know that accepting reality is an important precondition for changing it. So, what, I would love to hear more on this. What's the correlation between the two? Yeah.
Yeah. So, first on leadership energy, as I mentioned earlier, there are two sources of long-lasting leadership energy. Why did Mandela survive 27 years? Why did Gandhi successfully fight the biggest military power of its time single-handedly without guns and knives? Well, they found that inner energy, and that came from honest clarity of their own values and giving themselves a values-based purpose. The values-based purpose is the better future they want to create, but it's based on these values that they live their life by and never compromise. If one thing we can learn from Gandhi, it was this, that, my life is my message. You knew that whatever you went to Gandhi with, violence will never be an answer. Untruth will never be part of the answer. So he lived his values, he carried them on his sleeve all the time, as did Mandela. Mandela went against the very people that voted him to power and said, no, I will not fight for revenge. An eye for an eye will not happen in South Africa. I believe in nonviolence and reconciliation and forgiveness. Those are the kind of deep beliefs and values we talk about when we say leadership. And those are the things that give you courage, and those are the things that give you happiness, right? Now, coming back to the second part of your question about accepting reality, change makers, right? Everybody is concerned about something or the other, right? Everybody's concerned about something or the other, and people can get pretty violently, in conversations over tea or whatever, can get pretty aggressive about, this is not right and that is not right, and they curse and this, that, and the other, and I wish this would change and that would change. But how do you actually make change happen? Imagine you're standing by the window on the 20th floor of a building, and you have a ball in your hand, right? And you throw that ball out of the window. Now, for that ball to bounce back, it has to hit the ground first, right? It cannot bounce back mid-air. Now, accepting reality is about that. We let things bounce back. How far down can it go? Understand what the real reality is. Only then you will find what the real solution is. But just talking mid-air that this is not right and that is not right, without understanding the full impact of what the situation is, you will never find the solution. If you want to create a better future, accept reality fully, see what it feels like to touch the ground, the lowest point, and then say, from here, where can I do it? How can I bounce back? A lot of people are not good at that. They don't accept the reality, and they keep wishing and hoping that things will get better. No, they won't. First, you have to fully understand the impact of what's going on. Analyze that through the lens of your values and your purpose. There is hardly any challenge in life, and I throw this challenge at a lot of people all the time. When people talk about a huge problem, especially in the corporate world. Yeah, Rajeev, everything you're saying is fine, but we have the reality of this, and we have the reality of that, and we have this problem. So I say, okay, ask yourself two questions. This problem that you're describing, how does it sit within the overall scheme of purpose for the organization? Is it an important battle to fight within the purpose of your organization? Then fight it. But if it's not important, then don't fight it, which is again coming back to accepting reality. How real is it? How important is it? If it's not, don't fight every battle, right? And if it is an important battle to fight, then ask the second question, which is, if we acted according to our true values, if we acted according to our true values, what would we do? How would we respond? Yeah. And the moment you ask yourself that question, 99.9% of the times, the right answer will reveal itself. But the underlying condition is you have a true sense of your values and your purpose.
Yeah. And one of the things, Rajeev, which you said is that, this level of clarity about values, for you also, it did not come with just more studying and more research, right? It came through a very different process. So what was that process, is something which we would like to learn.
There is no step-by-step process, although, I do engage people in a bunch of exercises. I give them a whole lot of values. They choose yours, and then shorten the list until you have only 2 or 3 that you will never give up, etc. But really, the only answer of finding your true values is honest, deep reflection. It took me 10 years to find my values and purpose in life. And it's okay if it took me 10 years. I wish I had found it sooner, but it's okay. You have to keep asking the questions. What is most important to me? Truly, what do I really want? Without guilt, without looking at this question through the societal lens. What do I want? And keep asking. And they say, what do I want to give to the world in terms of purpose based on that? And it doesn't matter how long it takes. It's okay to struggle with those questions. It is not okay to go through your entire life not asking yourself those questions. Another of my most admired leaders used to ask the question, are you simply living your life or are you leading your life? And the difference is, I have clarity of my values, and which I will never compromise. Based on that, I have a purpose, however small, to create a better future. So it's a keep reflecting, keep asking, live life awake. Understand, there are only two situations in which you feel your inner energy. Whether you know your values or not, you have them. Okay, let's put it this way. You just have to bring them to the fore. Now, you will either experience in your day-to-day life positive energy or negative energy. listeners to this call today, those who are completely disagreeing with me right now, probably are getting angry and frustrated. That's an example of negative energy. Those who agree with me and say, yeah, I think it makes sense of feeling positive, feeling a glow, feeling something deep in the heart, say, I want to listen. They are feeling positive energy. So when do you feel positive energy? When do you feel negative energy? You feel positive energy when what you're experiencing in the moment is a good match between your values. You feel negative energy when there is a mismatch between your values and what you are experiencing right now. Right? Now, if you really, really admit to yourself what your true values are, you will be able to recognize your own energy much more. And once you start recognizing your energy, you'll find that you have energy for many things. Your values start becoming clearer because now you're focusing on the energy, and then you find the thing that you have the most energy for and make that the purpose of your life. So, for me, it took 10 years, but I then said, I want to now spend the rest of my life, since I have woken up, waking up as many people and organizations as I possibly can in this lifetime. And I will keep studying the secret of leadership, happiness, success, and courage, and sharing it, whatever I learn, so that a few more people will wake up, and they will wake up a few more, and they will wake up a few more, and maybe, just maybe, the world will become a slightly better place. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a genius to invent something, etc. But maybe this is one contribution I can make in my lifetime. It took a while, but it gives me personally a huge amount of happiness. I feel much, much richer now in so many ways because I feel like I have a purpose in my life.
Beautiful. And does this continue to be an iterative process for you of understanding yourself, your values? Because sometimes I think when I start saying to myself that yes, I have to, understand my values and live a life in integrity with those values, it's like starting from I think a fuzzy slate, right? I may think this is my value, this is my purpose in the world, and but maybe you see that it's not really giving you energy. After some time I think, or maybe you be the change in certain way, and then it opens more nuances of it. So how do you you hold the conviction that, hey, this is my value, this is my purpose, but also what allows you to hold that not knowing and still honor that serendipity to sort of change your values also to some extent, your purpose to some extent? How does it work?
So I get asked this question a lot, so can your values and your purpose change through various stages of your life? Or does it remain steady once you find it? There is no right or wrong answer, right? What we find is that values tend to be more steady than purpose. But for the greatest acts of leadership that we have studied through history, their values and purpose tends to remain stagnant, the same throughout their lifetimes. But can you change it? Absolutely can. You have to live life awake, meaning if you find information, convincing information that the values and purpose you're holding dear to yourself actually need to be refined, then do so. But don't be frivolous about it. Don't just be ready to change your values on a matter of convenience. If there is compelling information to change them, then change them. So there's no right or wrong answer, but I'll repeat that some of the greatest acts of leadership we've studied, they tend to be more steady over a lifetime. For me personally, I struggled, but for the last 20, 25 years, my values have not changed. Neither has my purpose. I'm happy with it, but I'm keeping an open mind. We graduated from sort of studying leadership and happiness from a different perspective, and now we are studying it from a planet and humanity perspective. So you evolve in that sense, right? Tactics change, strategies change, but the overall journey doesn't change. The danger, though, is that people can take their values so seriously that they can become intolerant. And we see a lot of that intolerance in the world right now. A lot of intolerance all over the world. We forget the fact that, humanity is one and should be one, and that we are all children of God in different clothes and different colors. And by the way, the challenges that we are facing today are so humongous that if we keep fighting amongst ourselves and imposing our will on others because, I believe in blue and you believe in red, that is another thing that we have to learn. Otherwise, we will not survive as a race. Many species have become extinct. I can't say that I understand why they became extinct, but I know that the human race will become extinct if we don't understand that our values are to guide our energy. Our values are not to be imposed on other people and fight and kill in the name of those values.
Beautiful. And from this, one of the questions I have is you said that that in a way we are all children of the God, we are all equals, right? So like when you go on a journey of success, and I think that's what the education system, the corporate system, all of it primes us for, to actually get that kick from feeling special, right? That we are better than others. and so when you are on like such a success tree, that you are like high profile, like Wall Street banker and trader back in the day, when which was like, even today it is so coveted, that was back in the day 20-30 years ago it was much more coveted. And then you say that you said that you took the most lonely decision of your life to sort of make a very sharp turn in your career journey, to get onto this path of nurturing leaders. And there also you go on and you become like one of the world's leading thought leaders. So how, like in that sort of context, what helps you still tap into that heart of equality and heart of connection and feeling equals? Because yeah, I'd just stop at that. Yeah.
So I'll give you a short answer and then a long answer. The short answer is this: life is a chance, take it. Leadership is a choice, make it. What do I mean by that? If once you get clear about a values-based purpose, right, you don't know whether you're going to succeed in achieving that purpose in your lifetime, because nobody knows. Any endeavor that we start, only the power above, whichever the power you believe in, if you believe in that kind of power, knows perhaps, but we mortals don't know whether we will succeed or not, right? So what we say is, leadership is a journey, not a destination. So getting to it, knowing that you may or may not reach your destination, do you have enough energy to enjoy the journey itself? That's the key to happiness. That's the key to success, that you are going to enjoy the journey itself. And by the way, I'll tell you another quick story from another leader. So she has done a lot in this world and given her country and the world so much with very, very humble means. So I was interviewing her and I asked her, I said, you've given the world so much. For some of you in India, you might know who she is. She's Kiran Bedi. Controversial, but at the same time, very admired, one of the most admired women in India. So I said, you're a humble police officer. You don't have much money. How do you start NGOs here, NGOs there, drug rehabilitation camps there, rehabilitating women in villages here and there? Now, where do all the resources come from? Her answer, epic answer: I have never started a project with more than 5% of the resources in place. But I am yet to give up a project because of want of resources. So, wow. So what's the secret? And she stood up and took 2 steps towards me. That's my secret. I said, ma'am, I don't understand. What do you mean? She went back to her chair, sat down, again stood up, took 2 steps toward me. This is my secret. I said, ma'am, please explain. I don't understand. And she said, if you start anything with full heart, based on the right values and the right intentions, take the first 2 steps with full heart, based on the right values, with the right intentions. The remaining 98 will come. The universe will show you the way for the remaining 98. If your intention is pure and genuine, start with 5%. Don't worry about the rest. So what a profound answer. So we don't know whether we will succeed or not. What we can do is dive deep into, honestly, our own leadership energy, which is our values and our purpose, and start the journey. Then let the universe decide, or the forces of things that I do not understand how things work, let those things decide where the journey will take us. But guaranteed, if you start the journey with full heart, with the first 2 steps, you will at the very least enjoy the journey. Chances are you will reach your destination as well.
Yeah, and you're saying that if you're enjoying the process, you're into it with full heart and you're happy in it, then you don't have a need to really like dominate people and you meet all of them like gently on the way. It's all like much more playful.
Oh, you bet. And then people, because you are, my life is my message, as Gandhi used to say, people join your journey. They see you living it. Say, I like that journey. I want to go there with him or with her, and they join you. And then innovation happens, then all kinds of beautiful things begin to happen. You don't need force, you don't need all kinds of things. You certainly don't need hatred, which is how some political bosses are trying to run the world these days, with hatred, as if hatred and violence is going to make humanity a better place. I mean, thousands of years of existence and we still don't learn the basic lessons.
Yeah. And one of the very powerful things which I found very powerful in your leadership description is that for steward leadership, you said that you have to be steward leader not only in your office, but actually it can only happen when you are like, you are into that same mindset in your home also. So and that just really made me curious to understand why you were saying that.
So earlier we said that leadership is the art of harnessing human energy to create a better future, right? It's not about a title. It's not about telling other people what to do. We went through that earlier. When we say steward leadership, we say it's not just a better future. It is a collective better future. Steward leadership is the genuine desire and persistence to create a collective better future. And it's the subject of my new book that I'm writing right now. What do we mean by collective better future? We must drive not just for win-win, but we need to drive for win-win-win. Employees are happy, shareholders are happy, society at large benefits together. So steward leadership takes care of not just the shareholder. It says, I will take care of shareholder, I will take care of employees, I will take care of society, I will take care of future generations even, and I will also take care of the environment. That's how I will conduct my business. So what we are trying to do in our own little way is we've created a whole lot of thought-provoking content, which we take senior leaders through. Is look, if you embrace steward leadership, you're actually making your company more successful in the long run. But you have to be a long-term thinker. And by the way, it'll be a legacy you will be leaving behind for your children and the world to remember you by. So, you're doing it for yourself, not for other people in that sense. So that's what we mean by steward leadership. And you cannot be a steward leader if you don't believe in win-win-win yourself at a personal level. Because steward leaders believe now, earlier I said you have to have values and a values-based purpose. So you can have any values and based on that, a values-based purpose. Steward leadership goes beyond. It says you have to have 4 specific values if you believe in steward leadership, one of which is interdependence. You have to believe in interdependence, otherwise you're not a steward leader. The second is long-term view, because succeeding by taking others along with you is a marathon, not a sprint. You have to have ownership mentality, meaning I take ownership to make business happen, not just for the shareholder, but for society as a whole. I will make money, but I will do it the right way. And fourth is creative resilience. This is going to take a lot of innovation and a lot of tenacity. So steward leaders believe in these 4 values. And their better future is not just for the one stakeholder, it is for multiple stakeholders, including future generations and the environment. You cannot be that in the office and be somebody else at home. That's not possible.
And so when you start tapping into that stewardship mindset and heart set, so you're saying that it's the benefits are not only seen in your company, its benefits accrue to your like whole existence, whole being, right? So I'm curious if you have anything to share on, like, as you have walked on this journey of, more and more deeper alignment with your values and with your purpose, how has, for example, because that's something, I think a lot of leaders struggle that, when they go to office, like they are like very successful, I think, at least by traditional metrics, CEOs and leaders. But when they come at home, I think, like relationships are like often like, much more difficult. So what have you learned about relationships and, from the steward leadership concept?
What I have learned personally is this: the more true you are to yourself, the better you become at your relationships. Coming back to the big lie, which is my family is the most important thing to me. Everybody says that, right? And those same people who in conferences and programs will tell me family is the most important thing, family, 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 they go home and they ill-treat their own families, whether knowingly or unknowingly, without even realizing it. And I was no different. I had no focus in life. I had no clarity as to what I was doing. And I kept saying my family is most important. But was I really a good father and a good husband? Or was I going home and taking out my frustrations on my own family without even realizing it? Right? I clearly can tell you I wasn't the best father and the best husband. It is when I admitted what were the most important things in my life to me without guilt, I realized that my work and succeeding at doing what I'm doing now is the most important thing in my life. It is even more important to me than my family. I had to admit that to myself. My family is important, but it is not my number one priority. My number one priority is to do more of what I'm doing right now. That realization made me a better father and a better husband. Because there was a certain amount of guilt in me now that, oh my God, what did I just admit to myself? That my family comes second or third? I must be a bad person. And that made me improve the quality of my time with my wife, with my children, and made me a better father and a better husband. So that's what it does to you when you are true to yourself.
Beautiful. And one question before I hand it back to Shruti for, presenting some questions from the audience also. And so before that, I think just for the audience, if you would like to share a question or a comment, you can do so via the comment box in the live stream page where you're watching this conversation. And we are really appreciative and grateful for, our collective presence here. So one of the things, Rajeev, which you say is that power of love is much bigger than the power of possession. And so, like, love, I think, is something, especially when has it been in your life that you most clearly felt this power of love? That's question number one. And then question number two is that, I don't know, love is a word, at least, I doubt if you rarely hear in a business setting, right? But I'm curious, what would you say that if there's a place for love and compassion in the business today, and what is that place?
So we say, and it's not my phrase, but I borrow from whoever said it, that there's power of love and there's a love for power, right? And what I say is, when the power of love exceeds the love for power, leadership happens. And it is even more true for steward leadership. When the power of love exceeds the love for power, steward leadership happens. Because steward leaders by default are givers and not takers, and they derive internal intrinsic happiness. The rewards are intrinsic for what they do for the world. When did I realize this for me? I knew, again, I don't know when and how, because the trajectory gets very blurred, especially as I grow older. But I realized somewhere down the line that you have to fall in love with what your purpose is. You have to give yourself a purpose and fall in love, madly in love with it. When you're madly in love, you're willing to do anything. When a couple first falls in love, there is just so much energy, and it's such pure energy. For a moment, at least, both people in that couple forget about themselves. They want to give everything of themselves to and for the other person. That energy is quite special. And that is the same energy we need to have with our life purpose, to fall in love with our purpose. And once you fall in love with your purpose, you can then do what Kiran Bedi says, that take the first 2 steps and the remaining 98 will become clear, because the power of love will take you through and will join the love of the organization, of the universe with you. So yeah, that's what I can say. If you are not in love yet, find something that you can fall in love with for the rest of your life, a purpose bigger than yourself.
Beautiful. Shruti, over to you.
Thank you. Before jumping in, I think, yeah, I just need so much time to just process everything that came. But thank you, Rajeev. That was a beautiful talk. And one of the things that I personally love about service space, like when you were speaking about this tension, right? This creative tension that gets built, like it's literally holding two opposite things in two hands and balancing them. Like a lot of what you said reminded me of that, and could experience fluctuating from one end to other. Um, all right. So now we're ready, like Rohit said, this was Rohit's part of the moderation, and we love to hear some voices from the people who are listening in, and there have been some great comments coming our way. We're ready to invite more voices to our dialogue. Thank you. Thank you, everyone who's been listening. And thank you to everyone who've already sent some questions. We have some people on call as well. And I just want to remind all the others, if you want to submit a question or a reflection, just do so via the comment box on the live stream page. All right. And we have some guest listeners with us, and I'll invite a few of them. Rupa had a great question. Rupa, I'll invite you in if you want to ask something from Rajeev.
Yes, hi, thank you so much. It's such an honor to be in this forum. Everything you said completely resonates with me. So for the past 5 years, I have been an animal rights activist. I've been working with a nonprofit. And during the pandemic, something really, really shifted in how I perceive the world and my work and where I stand. And so I am actually, a few months ago, I've decided that I am going to take some big risks and become an entrepreneur. So I'm embarking on a path to build a startup. And my question to you, and I before that, I do have to say, so many things that you said, what you call self-reflection, I call inner work, and I completely, totally agree that that work needs to happen. It has to come from within, and I've given myself all that time, and so my dad was a union leader, and so he was a huge influence on how I built my own team of volunteers, and this concept of being a fair leader, of running a company that is treats its employees in an ethical way, and is inspiring them with just being the best person that you can be, is something really important to me. My question to you is, one of the things I realized embarking on the new path of building a startup is that I need mentors, that I'm seeking and I'm looking for mentors on this journey. And so where would I go looking for mentors? Something that I'm would love to learn, love to know.
Well, there are obviously the formal ways, right? There are many mentoring organizations and matchmakers who match mentors and mentees and things like that. My view is a little bit different. I think you have to keep your eyes and ears open and see who you can learn from and ask them directly. And some will accept and some will not. Forced mentor-mentee relationships don't necessarily work. People put it in their resumes that I mentor so many people and therefore blah, blah, blah. I don't know if those really work out. You will know your mentors when you see them. And if you reach out to 5 of them, maybe 3 will agree, and have as many as you want. Not just one. But they say that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So you will find people in your life as you embark on this new endeavor who you'll be clear to you. Yes, I think this person can help me, or this person can learn. And I would say be shameless in asking for help. If the cause and the purpose that you've chosen is a worthy one,
yes.
Be shameless, ask for help. I am surprised as to how many people help me when I ask them, because I am totally shameless about it. Look, I'm trying to do this. I don't have all the resources. Can you help me in any way? And people just come forward if your story is authentic.
Yes, yes. So it is. If I can take just a couple of more minutes. So it's moved from only looking at animal rights to seeing what I think is really really pressing matter right now, which is all the issues of planet Earth, and how we as consumers are with the power of each and every dollar, with the power of our consumerist choices, how our choices are either harming or helping the planet. So it is on that platform. So that is where I'm heading towards. I would love to apply to you in your organization and ask you if that is something that you would consider to accept a mentor, if that is something possible. I came across this talk. I get emails from Awakin quite often, and usually the time doesn't align. I'm in California, so it's pretty late at night. But I saw the
Yeah.
nature of this talk, and I said, I absolutely have to be on this talk. I was on a call with my family in India, and I said, I need to go for this. So I would love to apply to ask you if you would mentor me in any way that you can.
Thank you, Rupashi. Yeah.
I think he gave me a great opening by saying, just go and ask and don't be ashamed to ask. So, I think it's only right that I do take that opportunity.
Very happy to help in any which way I can.
Oh, thank you so much. I will reach out to you. I'll ask Rohit how I can reach out to you.
God bless you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a deeper question. I think the deeper question here is like, if you just want like, hey, I want me to raise $100 million at like, and I don't care. So you have so many advisors, but if you're looking to do something more heartfully, the infrastructure, the architecture is so weak right now that it's much more difficult actually to find people who can really support you in that journey. So Rupashi, thank you for your beautiful work and point so well received. Thank you. Shruti, back over to you.
Yeah, thanks. All right, thank you. And I'm just going through all the questions, and I hope we have enough time to cover all. But over to you, Madeline. Madeline, are you here? I can just frame the question.
I am here. I just got to the mute button. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you, Rajeev, for your wonderful sharing. I'm working through a nonprofit in cultures where girls are really not valued and rarely allowed a formal education more than a year or two, and basically treated as property. They have no real rights. We are trying to bring them to an awareness of how precious they are and how worthwhile they are, how important they are in the world. And schooling is the first step. Of course, we get them into schools, kindergarten up through universities. But much of the schooling, at least at the basic level, is rote learning. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't really help them get in touch with their values or their worth. And so we host leadership workshops every year. We try to bring these young teens, most of them, together. And we don't have a curriculum really. We're trying to patch it together. Do you have recommendations for how you would go about? This is obviously not a corporate setting. This is young girls living in mud huts coming together onto a school campus during their vacation week. And we have local people working with them to try to catch the spark within each of them. Given your vast experience of teaching people, what would you suggest for young people? Because they have such potential.
Yeah, so nothing that I haven't said already. First of all, thank you very much for the work that you're doing. It's so amazing to hear you. Nothing that I have not said already. The sooner we get people to stop thinking about formulas and following theorem steps and best practices and get them to start dreaming about what they can be. In other words, get them to answer those questions that Rohit pointed out. who am I? What are my values that I will never compromise no matter what happens? And what do I want to give to the world? And make them understand that the more you give to the world, the more you will feel successful, the more happier you will be, and you can. The sooner we get people on the path of discovering their leadership energy, the earlier in their age, the better. So one of the most favorite people that I like to work with is young people, because they have a lot of energy that is probably suppressed, and you give them an out, and then they start dreaming, and then beautiful things happen. You start doing this with people who are my age and already jaded, it's harder. But these beautiful people, get them to focus on their leadership energy, uncovering their leadership energy, which is honesty of values and a values-based purpose.
One of the first things we started doing with them was encouraging them to pay it forward. And the concept of volunteering among the desperately poor is not widely practiced because their days are so taken up with just surviving, But once they start doing it, helping an elder in the village or working with a blind person or something, they just come alive. And
exactly.
That's to me, like, that's the seed of real leadership there.
And by the way, the other thing that I always say is that, if somebody doesn't want to be a giver and they have more self-centered goals, it's perfectly okay. It's perfectly okay to say, I want to be the best tennis player in the world, or I want to be the biggest and the greatest at this or that. No problem. But they must have a purpose, whether it is self, whether it's just focused on their family or a small group or for the whole world, it just doesn't matter. Authentically pursuing a values-based purpose is what's in. But even, to become the world's best tennis player, you have to work incredibly hard, and it's with full honesty with yourself. Yeah. And that action then inspires other people as well. So as long as it doesn't hurt society, let's not be judgmental about, what is right and what is wrong. That's the only other thing that I would add. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, Rajeev. The volume of questions keep on coming. Parag, I'll invite you next to share your question, please.
Thank you, Rajeev, for a very insightful talk. Jumping to the question, see, in today's world, a large number of startups, even for students who are coming from very bright business schools and engineering schools, large number of startups, and to some estimates, it is 80-90% fails. And that really intrigues me. The question is, does businesses fail people, or does people fail businesses? And what is your advice to a new startup?
So, I'm a humble investor in a few startups, and I look at investing opportunities here and there as well. And one of the questions I tend to ask the founders is, what are you trying to do? Something as open as that. What are you trying to do? Now, they can answer the question any which way they want. And when I hear the following answer, I switch off. That I will not invest in this company, or I will not have even anything to do with them. And when the answer is, I want to create the next unicorn. I asked you, what do you want to do? And you say, what are you trying to do? And you could have gone anywhere with this. And the only thing you could think of is, I want to be the next unicorn. That is my ultimate objective, means money, power, wealth. You didn't tell me how. I don't have anything against people becoming you want to be the richest person in the world, my blessings, please go and be that. But tell me how, with what do you want to become the richest person in the world? There's no compromise. There's no conflict between profit and purpose. If you want to be rich, that's fine. But you want to be rich by doing what? Can you get rich by giving something to the world that is useful, that makes lives better? That is the ultimate question. So I think whether people fail businesses or businesses fail, I don't know. If there is a cookie cutter answer or not, but one thing is for sure, if you're in business only to make money without having thought about, what is this business? Yes, nothing against the business being profitable, but what is this business going to do for the world? Then your chances of failure are higher and your chances of success are lower, because you will be making decisions only from that lens, that narrow lens. Whereas if you believe in interdependence and say, my business is going to make lives better, and by the way, make my family rich in the same place, nothing wrong with that, no guilt.
Thank you, superb. So a rejoinder question. So can you share a story of a business where people, purpose and profit coexist? or say profit or love coexist. Maybe one.
So many. I mean, this is what we do at Stewardship Asia Center. We collect these stories. In fact, we just launched a very ambitious project, just last week, where starting this November, every year we will publish the list of 25 best stories of steward leadership from around Asia Pacific, and then eventually around the world, like the Fortune Most Admired Companies list. So more on that later. But I'll give you one example, which is an example that most people know about. So I'm choosing that one. Paul Polman, the former CEO of Unilever. So when he became CEO, growth at Unilever was struggling for the last 10 years. They were still one of the largest companies in the world, but growth was completely stagnant and nothing was really happening. And he became the CEO, and the first thing he did is he launched what's called the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan. He got the company out of a lot of very profitable product lines that were very harmful for the environment. And he said that we are going to double our growth, half our environmental impact, and triple our societal impact. And we're going to do it through the Universal Plan, Sustainable Living Plan. Stock price, and he said, I will not give guidance to Wall Street for quarterly guidance and all that. Stock price tanked. They said, oh, he's getting out of profitable businesses. He's trying to be this tree-hugging messiah and all that. He's going to drive shareholder wealth into the ground. And stock price tanked. Wall Street gave a headline, Journal gave a headline saying Unilever needs guidance. Over the next 2 years, profits dipped. 75% of his top leadership team quit on him. But his board still stayed behind him because he convinced them that this plan is going to work, but give me a few years. And at the end, that sustainable living Unilever Sustainable Living Plan provided 290% return to shareholders over the 10 years that he was CEO. Again, you have to have deep belief in your values-based purpose and keep your eyes and ears open that you're not, ignoring the signals. Then you have to really, really be a good salesperson to sell your ideas to the world in such a way that they want to join your journey. And without the board support, he couldn't have done it. Great, great, great story. There are many, many more that I could. Well, why go any further? We are look at India. The Tatas have been doing steward leadership for the last 153 years. They've shown the world that focusing on society. Jamshedji Tata said this in the 1890s. The reason for business in society was something to the effect that business exists not for profit but for serving society and humanity. And you look at everything that the group does all over the world, they've had that philosophy. 75% of what they make, they give it away to charitable trusts. And they are a $300 billion plus conglomerate and growing and hugely successful. So to say that steward leadership, which is creating a collective better future, is not profitable, that's not true.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Parag. And yeah, totally with you. I'm constantly reminded of permaculture principles. That's something that I follow. And they talk about profit as fair share. And was constantly reminded of that. Arun on chat has asked this question, which I'll share because he's not here. He's asked you, which is, what in your experience can facilitate the changing of a mind? Just might be the toughest challenge that humankind is taking its place as stewards of our tiny blue dot. I'll just repeat the question. What in your experience can facilitate the changing of a mind?
I wish I had a magic wand, because that's what I'm in the business of right now, changing minds and waking as many people to the challenges. That let's shed our narrow differences and beliefs and let's work together as humanity to do that. I think I'm actually not very optimistic that we can convince everybody, but I'm very optimistic that humanity will overcome these challenges. Why? Because I'm a firm believer of the 80-20 rule. You look at the Wilfredo Pareto in 1906 proved to us mathematically that 80% of the effects are because of 20% of the causes. So if we can convince 20% of humanity to think differently, to think like steward leaders, I think we will save the planet. Because 80% of the people are responsible for, 20% of the people are responsible for 80% of the results. So I don't know how to convince them. But we go around, and I tell people who come through our stuff that, please pay it forward, go out and evangelize about this, and don't worry about how many people will get convinced. Even if a few get convinced, they will convince another few. Those who wake up, they will wake up others. I don't know what the number will be and what a foolproof answer is. We just keep trying and use your authenticity to do so.
Yeah, thanks. That was beautiful. Vasumati also just shared on chat. Leadership cannot be taught. That's something that you've mentioned. But at the same time, I think you also mentioned that companies should invest in leadership development, right? So this is an interesting question from an organizational perspective, like how can they invest then without teaching, or subsequently, what are the investments that they need to make?
So I say that leadership cannot be taught. I certainly cannot teach you leadership. Nobody can, but leadership can be learned. So leadership development, the industry, according to my guesstimates, we spend $80 billion a year on developing leaders in companies and in governments and this, that, and the other through training and mentoring and coaching and things like that. But they all teach us formulas. As Marilyn was talking about earlier about rote learning, leadership is also taught through formulas. How do I influence you more? How do I convince you more? So communication skills, this skill, negotiation skills, that. How do I manage your performance better? I think we need to turn the whole concept of leadership upside down and get people to come in and talk about, okay, who am I? What is the purpose of life? And because I've been given the gift of human life, what can I do as a result? What can I give as a result? To rediscover leadership from there, the idea of creating that collective better future, discovering values, discovering purpose, and thereby awakening their leadership energy. How Nelson Mandela became a Mandela, not overnight. But when he became clear that the purpose of achieving a rainbow nation is a purpose worth dying for, that kept him alive through 27 years. And that violence is not the answer. He was so deeply influenced by Gandhi on that respect, right? So the whole objective of leadership development in companies and organizations should be to wake people up and not to give them formulas of winning a negotiation or striking a better deal and things like that. All those basic skills are required. Yes, I'm not saying do away with them, but first, let's understand what leadership is.
Thanks. And it's quite a quandary because my follow-up question was actually, I was really inspired by what you shared about Kiran Bedi and those two steps. It's almost towards the end, and the last two questions here, one of them is, while we go out from this talk, right, and I'm sure, and I'm speaking on everyone's behalf, all of us have been hugely inspired. And like you said, right, I really like that concept of energy. And then there's so much of, I think, just natural intuitive ability to gravitate towards things. But as a person, if I go back and it's in my awareness, but what's like those two concrete or tangible first two steps that I can take to move towards a life with purpose?
The first thing is to answer the question, what are my values? Mm-hmm. And if you think you have a list of values that you live your life by, then ask yourself the question, what are the situations in which I might compromise these values? And be honest, be totally honest. So I have this exercise that I like to do with people. Okay, now under what circumstances would it be okay and legitimate to compromise your values? And people come up with very creative answers. Say, if it's in the interest of my country, I will violate my values. If it's in the interest of my family, I will validate. If it's in the interest of my religion, I will violate my values. And then I say, go back to the drawing board, because you haven't answered the question what your values are. Because once you are convinced about what your true values are, no religion, no God, no country can convince you to compromise them. Mandela, when he became president and said, I want to forgive and reconcile, his wife and his daughter challenged him. No, you are making a deal with the devil. You're selling your soul to the devil. This is not what we made you president for. You're going against the will of the people. He tried to explain to them, but they didn't listen. They left him. The two people that he waited 27 years to reunite with left him. He was sad, but not broken. And he consoled himself by saying, my family is not 2 people, my family is 44 million people. I will not give up my values of reconciliation and forgiveness, whatever happens. So unless you can get to that level of clarity that you are willing to even lose the thing that is the most dear to you, that is what's called values clarity. There is no such thing as there is a legitimate time to compromise your values. As long as you cannot get to that reality, you haven't begun to answer the question who you are and why I am here in the world. And unless you truly answer what the values are, meaning what is important to me, you cannot get to purpose, which is the second source of long-lasting energy.
Thank you. That was really powerful. And yeah, something that I'm definitely taking back. And the last question that we ask all our guests here is, how can we, people in service space community, support your vision?
Well, I have to say that I am totally indebted to service space already. Earlier, Rohit was asking me who are the people that have influenced you the most, and one of them is definitely Nipul. And we've become good friends since then, even though we don't speak that often. But he left a profound impact, and I have taken a lot of lessons from there in my own work. So I am already indebted. And allowing me in your midst today is another gift you have given me. So please continue to share. That's what I would ask for.
I think that speaks of your humility, Rajeev, and it's just so endearing. I think just to be in this space with you and to share your stories, and to hear. So thank you, and I think we are at the cap of our time. It has just been a very enriching discussion. Shruti, maybe if you have a closing comment, and then you can lead us to a close.
Well, what I say.
Yes,
sorry.
yes, yeah. If there's anything which is, I think Rajeev. So, if there's anything which you think for the last couple of minutes, if you think we have not covered, and which is useful to speak here, maybe it would be lovely if you have anything to add to, I think, whatever we have discussed.
I'm sorry, I thought you were asking that question to me, so I jumped in. Well, since the challenges that humanity is facing are humongous. And instead of comparing that, this country made the mess, so why are we being asked to clean it? Or this person is worse than me, so they should be held responsible. Instead of blaming, instead of comparing, oh, the fossil fuel industry is the problem, or that one is the problem. If we can all stop judging, complaining, and comparing, and do one little thing about climate change, one little thing, even if it means I will recycle more responsibly from tomorrow, or how much ever you can do in your power, whatever. If everybody stops complaining and comparing and doing small things, already it'll be huge for the planet. That's my hope. That's my prayer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rajeev, and completely with you there. And there's so many things. I've been given the difficult task of also synthesizing it, but I think there's so many nuggets there and so many things that it's difficult to just put it in 1 or 2 sentences. But broadly, what I am taking away from this is just I think a perception shift in how one sees leadership. And, I think inbuilt thought was that leadership is an act of leading others, and others are all automatically in the equation. I think that just kind of broke or separated for me in a beautiful way, that it's not broken, it's still interdependent, but it's just putting more onus on me. So I think what I'm taking away is, one, how purpose, people, planet, again, are intuitively interconnected, and that is what, you can't really separate them, and either be it in businesses or life. And then this another, I think, artificial distinction between business and life, right? If you're living with values, with purpose, it will show up everywhere and anywhere. And third is just this close relationship between values and purpose, and what are you willing to literally die for or live for in this case. And then the last thing that I am taking away is, that was, I think, just so beautiful, is at least for me, the perception was courage comes and then leadership comes. And right now what you framed for me was just the opposite, which is, if you find those core values and purpose, courage follows automatically, because you find within yourself that inherent courage that is there. So that was beautiful. Again, thank you so much for being here on behalf of the entire Service Space crew and all the people, all the invisible faces who made this happen. And let's close with a minute of silence.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.